remember when I moved to California in high school, a lot of people asked, "Oh my god, you lived in New York? Did you see famous celebrities all the time?" No, I did not. I haven't really encountered very many super well-known people in my life, but I'll tell you who I have seen since moving here like 7 years ago. A few years ago, when I was a volunteer at San Diego Comic-Con, I was stationed in the area between Markiplier's booth and the stage that Stan Lee apparently made an appearance on. That was probably the most claustrophobic I've ever felt in my life. Last year, I saw Estelle on an outdoor stage when Cartoon Network was filming their music video for Stronger Than You. She was gorgeous and stunning, and the sunburn I received from standing in the sun for 6 hours was totally worth it. However, this video isn't about either of those stars. This video is about how I met my favorite animator. Now, if you don't recognize the art in the thumbnail, you're probably wondering who exactly I'm talking about. Well, I'll tell you. So one of my favorite animations from my childhood is this flash animation titled There She Is, created by 3 artists under the name SamBakZa. It follows a story of a bunny who falls in love with a cat in a society where such a relationship is not accepted. The short series first gained major popularity on Newgrounds in 2004, which is actually where I discovered it before YouTube even existed, when I was like 9. My older viewers are probably more familiar with this series since the final installment came out like 10 years ago. Ever since I first watched it, it forever held a spot in my heart as my favorite animation series. I remember watching it over and over again with my friends in elementary school, and then when the final installment came out, we were overcome with emotion. This was also the age where I first watched Spirited Away, so I was discovering a bunch of longtime favorites at this time. Okay, so if you aren't familiar with it, I've included a link to the remastered version of the entire series in the description, which includes everything from start to finish. It only takes around 25 minutes to watch the whole thing, and it's really good. So when you have the time, go open the link and watch this piece of my childhood. And if you are familiar with it, well, go watch it again for the nostalgia. If you want to pause the video to go watch it and then come back, that's fine too. I'll just be waiting here. You still here? Welcome back! Alright, so back to the story. So last summer, I was visiting my parents in South Korea. They live kind of far from the city, so for the most part, there wasn't really much to do. One day, my mom was like, "Hey, we should take a trip to the city and go shopping for a few days." So we took a bus and got a hotel in Myeongdong, which is one of the primary shopping districts in Seoul, and a pretty popular area for tourists. So as it turned out, our hotel happened to be right next to this area called Cartoon Street, or Chemiro in Korean. This was a magical street conceptualized by the city government to promote tourism and the animation industry through some very talented animators and cartoonists. The street had a lot of cartoon graffiti, shops, galleries, and there's apparently a webtoon workshop center, but I didn't get a chance to explore everything in its entirety. So the day that we have to check out of the hotel and head back to my parents' place, my mom is like, "Hey, before we go, do you want to take a walk down Cartoon Street?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So we're walking down, admiring the colorful art on the walls. I'm like 30 steps ahead of my mom the entire time, and suddenly I come across a store window with these cardboard cutouts. Oh my god, they sell There She Is merch? That's a thing? Mom, come look at this! And I step inside all excited because I'm 100% ready to walk out with some merch. And the first thing I see are these plushies of the dog from the second installment of There She Is. I'm like, I need this! I was explaining to my mom why I was so excited about it, and she tells the man behind the counter, I guess his character is like really popular in America or something, I don't know. I made that character. Huh? There she is! Oh, you know There She Is? The guy behind the counter who I totally did not recognize was none other than Amalok, the animator for the series. Before this moment, I'd never really had the feeling of being starstruck, and maybe it was because this random encounter caught me completely by surprise, but I was stunned, and for the first time ever, starstruck. Amalok was really nice, and since there was a bit of a language barrier, my mom helped translate for both of us. Thanks, Mom. I purchased the dog plush, which I have sitting in my room right now, and as soon as we left the shop, the adrenaline wore off, and I started crying immediately. What's wrong with you? I'm just really happy. That was probably the most memorable thing that ever happened to me while I was in Korea, and this was actually around the time when I was just starting to draw animatics for my channel, so the accidental encounter gave me a huge burst of inspiration for the rest of my trip. To some people, it might not really seem like a big deal because the animation is old, or because the animator doesn't have a massive social media presence. But I was beyond happy to meet a person who made me feel inspired and emotional with a single 25-minute story since I was a kid. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you check out SamBakZa's animation. If you end up not liking it, well, then I appreciate you taking the time to check it out anyway. And if there's any little animations that you really enjoy and would like to recommend, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always a sucker for good storytelling and cute characters. Huge thank you to Verve for making this video possible. If you're a big fan of animation yourself, check out Verve, which has a whole bunch of animation channels like Cartoon Hangover, where you'll find shows like Bee and Puppycat. If you prefer the anime variety, there is of course Crunchyroll and Funimation, where you'll find shows like My Hero Academia and Recovery of an MMO Junkie, perfect for the action comedy lover or the romance comedy lover. I just really enjoy comedies. For all of my viewers with classes, spring break is coming up, so what better way to spend spring break than to indulge yourself in Verve's huge selection of animated shows and movies? And great news, you can watch on the go. Offline viewing, which means no internet required, is available to Verve Premium members. So go catch up on the entirety of One Piece, Season 4 of Bravest Warrior, or go have a huge animation marathon with your friends, or by yourself with a large tub of ice cream, nobody's judging. Use my link verve.co/emirichu to get a limited time 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium and get access to 12 different channels on pretty much any device of your choosing. That's vrv.co/emirichu, or just click on the link in the description. Do it now! So the story in this video is actually one that I've wanted to tell for a while now, but I never got around to it because I wasn't sure if it was exciting enough to tell, so I'm really glad I was finally able to illustrate it. I'd like to give a huge thank you to my mom for basically accidentally getting me to meet the person that animated There She Is. So if you ever find yourself in Myeongdong, I highly recommend you take a stroll down Cartoon Street and keep an eye out for SamBakZa's shop. Of course, you're probably going to want to bring someone who's fluent in Korean if you're not fluent yourself, which I'm certainly not. Thank you to everyone who drew me fan art, and of course, thank you to my patrons.